welcome to another great episode because we always have incredible women on our podcast and in the studio. But I am right now holding a book called Closing Deals in Heels. First of all, how attractive is that title? Because not only is it feminine, but girls, we are closing deals in heels. That's life. And today I have author, luxury real estate agent, woman, entrepreneur, all the titles, all the things that we can go for and build for our life. That woman is here, and her name is Holly. I've had the pleasure of knowing her for the past, I think, 6 years. We used to work at the same brokerage, and I have just watched her career take off, and I've watched her take off. What I find very remarkable about Holly is that she's able to not just blend her career and her interest and her love, but she is a purpose-driven woman in all aspects, and I truly mean that. So I want to welcome Holly Carroll to the podcast. Welcome to the podcast, girl.
Thank you so much. Wow, that's so sweet.
I have a whole intro, and I do still want to walk our listeners through your entire career and what you've done. Holly is a Toronto-based entrepreneur whose journey from international model to luxury real estate powerhouse is nothing short of inspiring, and you'll see that on the podcast today. With a 17-year modeling career that took her literally around the globe, Holly has been on top magazines, walked the runway. She looks like a supermodel till this day, and she's done it all. She earned the title of Miss Canada Tourism, blending her poise with passion and philanthropy, which I really love about her. She actually made a very bold pivot into real estate, bringing the same confidence and tenacity to Toronto's luxury property market. Now she's the managing director at the agency Muskoka. First of all, Muskoka, and second of all, the agency, one of the best brokerages in the world. She's known for closing multi-million-dollar deals. And we're going to ask her about some of these deals because honestly, the properties she shows clients and just they are incredible. I think the most recent accomplishment and something she's very proud of and that I can't wait to dig in is her #1 best-selling book called Closing Deals in Heels, where she shares her personal journey, offers empowering insights on building confidence, resilience, and being a success in a male-dominated industry. In today's episode, we're getting all down to transformation, real estate, mindset shifts, and it all. So again, welcome, Holly.
Thank you. I'm glad we did that.
Yes, me too. We want everyone to know that's listening what your background is so we can be prepared for the conversations and just who you are. So talk to me.
Right. So I did want to, I've never done this on a podcast before, by the way, but it just felt called to do it. I would love to say a mantra for both of us and for the viewers, the listeners. So in this space, we honor the journey, not just the wins, but the wounds that made us wiser. We believe that transformation isn't reserved for the chosen. It's available to the willing. Today, we speak with truth, we listen with presence, and we share with heart. May this conversation spark something in you, the courage to rise, the permission to heal, and the reminder that you always are one decision away from your most aligned life. Let's go.
I'm ready. I stopped everything I was doing. I really wanted to listen to that. That is beautiful. Is that something that you practice on a daily?
I think, yes. I mean, I set intentions. I give myself extra time to go into things with intentions and things with alignment. Like even when I go into podcasts, I used to go into podcasts thinking, what am I going to talk about? I got to say this, I got to say that. And then I was like, my energy is the message. And it doesn't matter what I say, whatever's supposed to come out is supposed to come out. But that only comes with alignment and intention, or a mantra, which is similar, right? That just comes with grounding, right?
Yeah. And I was going to say, I think one of the things that I love seeing when I am in front of bold, beautiful, powerful, confident women that have it all, you weren't always like this.
No.
And there's so much hidden transformation, pain, struggle that brings us to where we are. And confidence is energy. It's not just how we look. And if you could go back and talk to us a little bit about that confidence piece that looks so great, what did it take to get to this place?
Radical forgiveness.
Okay.
But I will say that that's one of the reasons why I wrote the book, was I wrote the book to little Holly. One of the biggest ways to be confident is to accept all of you.
That's the hardest though.
That's the hardest, I know. But I mean, I think we all carry around this shame and this guilt, and we need to let that go. Because all of the things that led us here were happen for a reason, and they happen to shape us, right? So if you lean into that, it's actually a lot easier rather than trying to avoid it.
So what has Holly gone through in the last few years that no one saw, but you knew and you might be ready to talk about?
Right. Well, just recently, this winter was very tough. I think it was tough for a lot of people, I'm hearing, because there's this huge shift in the world everyone's talking about. I feel like when you raise to a new level, it almost feels like your life is falling apart. If that's you, congratulations. You are in the right spot. But nobody really talks about that. I had to see all the Hollies that maybe I avoided. So I went into pure isolation to write the book, which I think was a very good thing, but a very difficult and painful and uncomfortable thing. And at first, it was very, very hard. But then I realized that the more I get uncomfortable, the better it's going to be. So I leaned into the pain. I leaned into the shame. I leaned into the resentments, and I worked through it.
How? Give me some tips, because if there's a woman listening to this and she is in her pain journey and her struggle journey and she's going through that, how do we lean in? Does that mean sitting with it and taking accountability, responsibility, looking at yourself? What did that look like for you?
Right. My biggest practice is writing because I wrote a book. And a lot of that is in the book. So basically the half of the book was written in this isolation part. But
oh, wow.
Sometimes I get on my hands and knees and I pray. Like right down to my hands and knees and I pray. And I just sit with it and what am I supposed to learn? And I write about it and I walk around and say, okay, I'm open to receive. I'm not turning my back on this. What am I supposed to learn? And then I give myself so much love. Because what happens is you become aware, then it comes up because you've invited it up. And then most of the time what happens is people are like, oh, no, put that back down. And then we basically just have to keep dealing with it until we're ready to deal with it.
Or sometimes never.
Or sometimes never. So when it comes up, be like, okay, I'm ready for this ride. Chances are it's not going to get any worse. And know that you're temporarily going to feel uncomfortable, and then just give yourself so much love, like so much love, and know that you're not alone. The universe, God, spirit, whatever you want to call it, is there for you. Your guardian angels, they're there for you. So know that you can be held. But the best and quickest way to do it is with you and spirit.
I find whether you call it isolation, solitude is the best of healer,
right?
The best of you, because when you get to be alone with yourself, you can't run away.
I know.
You just can't.
And it's beautiful.
It is. Right. It is. It's like eye-opening. It's all of the feelings. It's very uncomfortable. So you went through that this winter that just passed.
This winter, and I'm not going to lie, I tried to fight it. That's also in the book. I went to the liquor store and drank and tried to numb and started watching The Handmaid's Tale, which got into that a couple seasons. And I felt worse about myself. Nothing against that show because it's very well written, but that's what we try to do. We're like, try to make it worse almost and like kind of go down even further. And I was just like, okay, like snap out of it. We got this.
What is something that you wish more people asked you about? What is something that you wish, even though you try to show the raw and real, what is something you wish more people saw about you or your journey or what the everyday looks like?
Like you said, I am pretty vulnerable, but I want people to be able to ask me. And I think what happens is people see that and they're like, oh, I shouldn't even ask her, or I should just talk to her about the good stuff. So I just want everyone to know they could ask me how bad it could get and how I'm human still, and I make a lot of mistakes, and that's okay. Mistakes are part of the journey. I heard something today on the way here. I was listening to another podcast, and it said that most people are more scared of success than they are of failure.
Oh.
And I'm getting emotional just thinking about it because they're actually afraid to shine in that light, because the only way to really shine in that light is to embrace all of it, right? Because if I stood up here and I hadn't done the inner work or I hadn't seen all those places, it wouldn't transcend. I just felt your heart, by the way. And that wouldn't have happened if I didn't know how to go, or sit within.
You can't pretend. And it's very true. I think That's very powerful. That's hitting me right now because you're right. I mean, it is much more scary to be successful because to be successful, and I was having this conversation with another guest on the podcast, that means not just coming to terms with who you are and where you've made the mistakes, but also choosing because you got to give up something in order to find and bridge that success and to shine through and not apologize for shining.
That's the thing. And I feel like misery still loves company.
100%.
So it's like much easier to like talk about your failures. Oh, I had those too, blah, blah, blah. But the success, people want to kind of bring you down, which I also don't want to make that a fact because there are a lot of beautiful women like you that are powerful that you just need to align yourself with. I will say that one of the difficult things too is that grief period of your old self. There is literally a grief.
Oh, yeah. So, okay. So to a follow-up question to that is if the old Holly if the old Holly is now transformed into this new person, what are some things that you've left behind that you look at yourself and you're like, I take responsibility for that and that is no longer me? What are some things that maybe you did or patterns you repeated that you were able to look face to face and now be like, you know what, I did that and I took full responsibility of that?
Absolutely. In a mental way, I have definitely moved with fear and shame.
Really?
And definitely. I mean, just with alcohol, I used to drink and then I didn't drink. And the reason why I didn't drink was because I was scared to drink. So I was scared of that Holly. And that's also not serving me at all.
You can't be scared of her.
You can't be scared of her. Right. So the Hollies had to also meet and forgive each other, love each other, and then move on with each other. And now it's more of a choice if I drink rather than a fear or a shame or whatever it might be. And I use that as an example, but that could be anything. That could be going into a podcast. And if you're going into a podcast or you're going into something that you want to do and you're moving with fear or shame, you're moving in a different light, right? With a different energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. I really like the fact that you said that it is misery loves company, but I think it's so much easier to talk about sometimes failures because it makes you feel like you can relate with the other person. Everyone's going through the same thing. But you're right. It's much harder to share your success and be proud of your success. So I usually ask the other way around. I ask, what is something that you're working on? But I think what I want to do with you, because I feel the energy. I know you're at like this you're at a mountaintop. I feel it energetically. I felt it through your messages. I see what season and chapter of life you're in. What do you have to say to that? What are you proud of right now? What is something that you're like, I'm successful here and I earned it. I'm not apologizing for being here. What does that look like for you right now?
Wow.
Take your time, babe.
I have to say that I am still catching up to it on a physical plane. On a mental plane, I was up there dancing and I was up there bringing other women up and I was up there believing I could get up there. It was only a matter of time. But I feel like my physical body hasn't caught up that. Do you know what I mean?
No, explain. I'm curious to know. What do you mean by that?
So sometimes when you have manifestations and you dream and you see your highest self, okay? I've practiced a lot of visualization. That's also in the book. So you visualize this higher self, right? And you feel it and you see it in like a 5D plane, but your 3D world, which is basically your ego, like your energy, sometimes doesn't catch up until later.
I get it.
Yeah. But to answer your question, I'm very proud of like my push through without validation and without reality actually being there. So like I always believed that I was there, even though nothing proved that I was. And, people say you down and say you're not going to make it. And you're just like, nope.
Who's telling you that? Let me go see it. But you're right. Yes. And those voices tend to sink in deeper the older you get. And the fear gets deeper and deeper. And I don't want to say like, what advice would you give? But like, what have you found that has not worked, but really, really resonated with you to get through this chapter where you're gracefully aging, you're owning more of yourself, forgiving yourself? What was the shift?
I think the shift was paying attention to what I'm putting in as well. So what I'm listening to, who I'm surrounding myself with. What I noticed over the winter too is I'm highly, highly influential, which I thought was a bad thing. Because I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't be around these people, I can't be around that people. But then I was like, that might be a little bit of a superpower, because that means that if I'm in a room with multimillionaires, I'm going to be a millionaire. You know what I mean? So I've noticed that it's very important who you surround yourself and what you're listening to.
Yes. Do you still, or have you had imposter syndrome when you are around successful people, let's say even millionaires in the room? And I want to talk about that because, you know, one of the reasons starting the podcast, starting the Wellthy Woman Real Estate is to say it's okay to make money, want to make more money, and what that eventually buys us, the freedom, the independence, the ability to stand on our own 2 feet. And, you know, you being in the luxury real estate world and coming for where you have you felt imposter syndrome being there? And how did you overcome it? Did you just pretend? Did you just, you know, kind of just like do it anyways?
Well, there's a few facets to that. So selling luxury, it's important to feel luxury. So I would go to, you know, beautiful hotels, or I would go to beautiful listings, and I would kind of pretend that they're my listings, or I would visualize that they're my listings. I would visualize those of my clients. So it kind of goes back to me, the physical plane, not coming up to the 5D plane. Bear with me here.
Yeah, I'm with you, girl. I'm with you.
So I visualized this before it happened. So it's not as uncomfortable when I get there. So let's just say way back when I listed the $30 million listing in the Bahamas, right? That was a crazy jump.
Did you guys hear that? Can we repeat that?
Can we put
yes,
that in
please.
So let's just talk about the $30 million listing that I listed in the Bahamas. That was a huge stretch, not just financially and the price tag, but that was a huge stretch because I don't live in the Bahamas. But I visualized daily, like shaking hands with the person that I was, you know, selling the house for. I visualized myself in there. I visualized myself walking on the beach. I visualized myself throwing a broker's open. Like I visualized so much that when it does happen, it doesn't feel so awkward.
Oh, it looked like you were born to do that shit, girl. Like
Well,
so
I was not.
effortlessly, but also I can understand being on the other side, getting one of the most, not just biggest listing or career move, but that is a big deal. And to show up poised that you deserve that and that you are worth it to do this job is another level of confidence in the way that you need to carry yourself. Can we talk? I want to go back a little bit, okay? Because I know we've talked a lot about, for you listeners, we've talked a lot about a little bit of what you've gone through, where you're at now, and I think like a little bit of where your energy is. But I want to rewind it back to a little bit about your career, because I know you've modeled for 17 years. I know it's a big part of your story. What are some, without getting into all the fun stuff you've done in the modeling career, but what are some things that you learned in that modeling career that actually serves you till this day?
Yeah, I love this question because real estate and modeling, although seem worlds apart, are actually quite aligned. So real estate taught me confidence, presence, poise, and how to build a brand. And I took that into real estate. So I never really left modeling. I just evolved.
Wow. Okay. That I never looked at it that way. So when you say you just evolved and you married the two, how did you do that? And when did you make your move over to real estate?
Right. That's a really good question because it was not easy.
Okay.
I actually used to think that they didn't align and that people wouldn't take me seriously. I'm this tall blonde, like what the heck does she know about real estate? And I hid the modeling and I tried to pretend I wasn't the 17-year plus international model.
Really?
Right. And which obviously created turmoil because it wasn't my authentic self, right? So,
and also like even when you go on your social and see you, that's part of what who you are and what you do now.
And I think that the agency was a really great fuse to that too. And I was with a brokerage before that I don't know if I was able to shine as much. And that could have been me. That could have been the brokerage. No judgment or whatever. But at first I thought I needed to be more professional or look more like them. And so, like I said, it was really tough for me to infuse the two. And it's no wonder that my plane didn't get off the ground because I wasn't actually being myself. And then one time I just said, you know what? Like, I don't want to be in this business if I can't be me. Right? And it was all in my head.
Yeah. It's a mental block.
It's a mental block.
Yeah.
So I had to do some work on that as well. And the shame that maybe people put on modeling, I carried that she doesn't know, she's not very smart, she's pretty. Like, those are things that I made up. They're not true. They're not reality. So I had to do some work on that too.
Did that take a while?
Yeah.
Because your modeling career was quite lengthy, right? Like 17 years is a long time. When did you make that shift? What age are we talking about when you went from modeling to real estate?
2018. But I didn't make the final infusion, if you will, till 2 years into real estate.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
That is crazy.
And if you look through my Instagram, now everyone's going to be looking through the
Yeah.
Instagram.
We're scrolling right now.
You can see the shift. You can see the physical shift where I switched kind of from like the model to then the real estate agent and then the two.
Okay. And why real estate? Was that a calling? I mean, going from modeling, were you looking at other options?
I've always loved sort of sales and people. Okay. I really have.
Yes.
And
you're closing deals, girl.
wearing heels. But I mean, real estate is if we're talking about wealth here, real estate is one of the highest ticket that you can sell. And it's one of the most personable, right? Because you're literally taking people through transformation. So I love mentorship and I love coaching. I love just that guidance. And that is infused with real estate. But I don't actually know if I want to be a coach. I never want to say don't because
you never know. I see the work that you're doing.
Right.
I would not be surprised.
Well, and I get to do that. I get to do that with maybe some newer agents, and I get to already do that with the book, and I get to do that in this podcast right now. So I definitely get to do that, but I also get to do that in real estate. And I'm one of those grateful real estate agents. I just love it. I love the bad stuff. I love the good stuff.
So was it just like, okay, I'm going to transition, and then was it, I'm going to do luxury real estate? Talk to me about that. A lot of real estate agents get into the market. They want to sell luxury homes. They want to be this poised, well put together, but it doesn't always translate.
Right.
So would you say it was a successful shift right off the bat because you were able to take all your experience? Like, what was the difference from going from modeling to instead of just hitting straight away luxury real estate? Like you went for
I had a dream and I wasn't stopping. So I just feel like what happens is people want to sell luxury real estate, or in their market, they want to be a luxury price tag. And what'll happen is it doesn't happen right away in their timeline. So then they lower their standards and they say, okay, I'll sell this now. And then, and I'm not saying I don't sell things that aren't luxury, because luxury isn't a price tag anyways, right? But
Are you? Wink, wink.
Yeah. But like, I was like, there's no stopping me. I'm going to be a luxury agent. And I felt it. So eventually it came to me.
Keyword that you felt it. So you acted like it.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't think anything less. I mean, I look at you, I think luxury. But is that something that came right off the bat as soon as you got into luxury, or were you had to work your way up there? What did that look like?
I definitely had to move towards it.
Okay.
But there was also a serious alignment and a frequency of it. Like you said, imposter syndrome was there. But what I really liked was charity events and higher end charity events, because people are in a little bit more season of giving. They're not necessarily like, why is she here? So you can kind of get your foot in the door a little bit more with charity events. And then there's a lot of people that have a lot of money. So that's kind of where I really would put myself. And I love to give back. I love any type of charity, especially dogs.
Yeah. And I also love the fact that you said that, because look, at the end of the day, you wrote closing deals in heels. You're in real estate, you're in sales. And I always say to myself, the number one skill that women can learn and use is the ability to communicate and sell. Right. If you can sell as a woman, it's not like, oh, I'm a salesperson. But if you learn the ability to sell, you're going to achieve success no matter which area you go, because you've learned the art to communicate with other people. So talk to me about this in the luxury real estate world. What did you do to grow your network? How did you get your first luxury client? What are some sales skills you wish more women knew? I know these are all questions I'm throwing at
Bring
you.
it on.
But talk to me about the sales and how you built your luxury real estate clientele.
I created a brand before it was a brand.
Okay.
So
Talk to me about that. Break it down.
I created the real estate queen of Muskoka, Holly Carroll.
Oh, dang. You created that.
Before it was a thing.
Okay.
Okay. And I mean, not necessarily it's a thing, but like I said that to myself. Like I am a luxury real estate agent. So I would leave the home like that. I would literally sip coffee like that. I would.
How would she sit? What would she?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Honestly, ask yourself, what would the multi-million-dollar whoever, put your name in this blank, do? How would she walk? How would she talk? How would she answer the phone? How would she write in her notes? Like literally, I would just be like, okay, like, and that is, it's not going to say it's easy, but that's something that you can do right now without having to be like, wow, I don't even know how I'm going to get the clients, because you figure it out once you're in that energy. And then next thing you know, people are calling you thinking that you're a luxury real estate.
You're like, yeah.
Asking you to podcast. Like,
right here.
right. But seriously. And then you go out like that. And I would, like I said, I would go to lobby hotels that were very fancy. I would go to really fancy stuff and drink water out of a wine glass. Like I would feel luxury and that would emanate off. So then I would have conversations with people and next thing you know, they know I'm in real estate and...
So you did a lot of networking. You went to the right places. These are great tips, Holly. You got to we got to dig into these, okay, a little bit more. Okay. And it's not that giving away your sauce or whatnot, because look, you are here for a reason. You've manifested all of these things in your life. You are the luxury queen of Muskoka real estate. When you say that to me, I'm like, yeah, that's how I know you. And to now think back that that's what you built to be recognized as. Yep. Has worked.
It's worked. But I had to say it a few hundred times to myself.
100%.
In the mirror. Like, you are a luxury real estate.
Yeah, you are.
You, okay? Brush your teeth.
So how did you land your first client? Was it after being in a bunch of lobbies, drinking water out of that wine glass? Because I do that every single day. I don't drink. So my water is always in a wine glass because I just feel so great. I just do. I hold my glass differently.
I know.
I sip differently. Like usually I'm like chugging down, but as soon as that water's in that wine glass, all of a sudden it's like.
Can you imagine if it was a red Solo cup? Like you're gonna get no luxury, girl.
But yeah, talk to me how that first, client. Do you remember?
My first client.
I guess your first memorable luxury real estate deal, then you're like, wow, I'm doing this.
You know what? This comes to mind. Now, don't quote me on this being my first one. But the funny thing about it is my first luxury client actually started at $1 million. Okay. They were looking for cottages. They were amazing. And they started at $1 million. They're actually a buyer. And I can't even remember where I got them. I think I got them from a realtor.ca lead. I don't even know. And the cool thing about why this story becomes luxury, not that $1 million isn't luxury, but is that we couldn't find them a place that, had all their boxes ticked. And they wanted luxury. And I was showing them luxury. I was taking them out on the boat in Muskoka. And I was like, this is what it could be like. And $1 million at the time wasn't giving them what they wanted. Anyways, I got them up to $4 million in a year. Because I showed them what that looks like. That doesn't happen every time.
Yeah.
But you show them that lifestyle of what that could be. And luckily they had extra money.
And you wouldn't have known if you didn't show that they have the extra money to be able to afford something like that.
Right. And I think this is just coming up to me, but I think a lot of people when they're selling something, they want to go down. They want to save them some money. Right?
That is so true. That is so true.
Rather
that resonates.
Than being if you have any more, this is what this could get.
I think it's also the fear of losing the sale or losing the deal that you just automatically discount, not even just your services, but even what they could possibly afford. Right. Because you just assume that might not be it. Okay, so I want to go to your daily routines and habits that has made you successful in your real estate career when you first started out versus what they are now?
Whew. When I first started out, I got a coach. I got a mentor, and I took a course. The first course I took was Bob Proctor's Thinking into Results. I'm sure people know that. And I studied every single morning from Monday to Friday at 6:30 to 7:30 a.m. With an accountability partner. So from 6 to 6:30, we would study. And then from 6:30 to 7, we would hop on and talk about what we're going through. So I really doubled down. And sometimes I need to do that again. So I don't feel like I need to right now, because you can also get into a situation where all you do is study and all you do is personal development, but you have to embody it as well.
Take the action.
Exactly, because you can only learn in action, right? Versus what I do now. So now it's all about embodiment. Like, I gave myself a couple extra minutes in the car just to look at myself in the mirror and be like, you deserve to be here. Your energy is your message. Like, I really do a lot of this, but I needed to know the language first.
So you've invested quite a bit in yourself.
I have.
What is something that you did this morning?
This morning I visualized this exact thing. And it's funny, I actually visualized you wearing red pants.
Seriously?
No joke. And it's funny why I did that, because you were wearing white yesterday, or the last time you did a podcast. So it kept coming in white. I said, no, she's wearing red pants.
Do you know why I wore red?
For
because
the
of you.
Yeah, I know.
Like, no, not even the agency. Red is my brand color, but I thought I needed to wear red for you, because when I thought of you, I thought of power. And when I thought of power, I thought of red.
Right. And usually I wear red.
I know. And I knew you were going to show up in white. That's crazy.
That's crazy. So I visualized this, but I didn't necessarily visualize what I was going to say. It's not the details, it's the feeling. And I was just so excited to see you. So I knew that already.
Yeah, me too. I knew that too. Okay, I want to talk to you about one of your biggest highlight in your real estate careers. And I don't know if I have this right, but would it be the Bahamas property that you listed? Was that your biggest highlight in your real estate career?
Yes, I would say that's my biggest number, and the fact of how I got it.
Can we talk about that?
So I actually went on a retreat with my mentor, and it happened to be in the Bahamas, and it was called Rise. And there was only 18 of us, and 9 of us stayed in one villa, and 9 of us stayed in the other villa, and they were side by side. The biggest thing about this retreat was that it was so luxury that it was very expensive as well. But that's the whole point. Invest in yourself and feel luxury so that you can attract luxury. Become that vibrational match. So we were all at this round table outside, and my coach says, everybody stand up and say, what do you want to be? And you have to say it with conviction. And I stood up and I said, I am an international luxury realtor. And everyone's like, well, I thought you already were. And I'm like, well.
Let me repeat it again.
And not even 2 hours after that, I found out that the seller would like to sell the villa. And
where
it's
you were
$30
staying.
million. So talk about being in the right places. I did not force that sale. What did I do? I aligned with that.
Wow. Talk about
Right.
like speaking something into the world and it coming to you. Okay, so what happens next? So you're there, they want to sell. Are you going in to like do a full out interview? Are you nervous? What's going on?
Yes. So the cool thing is that I kept believing that I would sell it and I would list it, regardless of the how-tos, because the how-tos gets messy, and that's when you get off your frequency. Game. So obviously I had to figure out where the seller was, anything about the seller. That's all in the book, so we won't get into much detail.
Okay. Yeah, that's totally fine.
But basically, it took me 6 months to even get a face-to-face with him. And it's in the book, but I remember feeling sick on my way to him because it was that identity shift.
Yeah.
Like physically sick, where I had to pull over and like throw up.
I believe you.
Yeah. And it's funny because I actually went on Matt Campoli's podcast, Price to Sell. And I told him, because I went on a month after I got back from this retreat, and I said, Matt, I'm going to sell a $30 million listing in the Bahamas. And he's really all about, he's actually taken Bob Proctor's Think and Grow Rich too. And he says, okay, awesome. Like, he believed me, because I was also convincing. And I said, and if I get it, you're going to come to the Bahamas and film episode 2 of me, Price to Sell. And he came.
Oh, I remember seeing you both. And I thought that was such a great duo. And I was like, I really wonder how this came about. Like, what an incredible thing to see and watch. What did a $30 million listing teach you about successful, wealthy people, and then operating in that energy as a powerful queen of real estate?
Listen. It taught me to listen, because what we want to do is we want to pitch, and we want to say this, and this, right? To be in those rooms. And it's actually better if, especially with imposter syndrome, especially if this is your first time in the room, especially if this is your first big deal, just go in and listen, right? So the cool thing about the listing presentation was when I finally met the guy, I felt so sick that I didn't even have a voice. So I had to listen. Turns out he loved to talk about himself. So it worked out perfectly.
How many words did you get in?
Not very many. I got in that the agency was coming to the Bahamas, like a couple bulletin points, but that was it. I also learned that aside from the frequency of luxury, it's the same transaction. And actually, Mauricio said that to me. He goes, Holly, a $300,000 home is just the same as the $30 million home. It's
Explain.
the same stuff. It's the same paperwork. It's the same. You don't have to learn anything new. You just have to become someone that feels like they're worth being in that room.
Wow, that's powerful. That's so true. Because if
Same.
someone told you it was 300,
You'd be like, oh, whatever, I can do this in my sleep.
but as soon as you attach like
Right.
a couple of zeros, you're all of a sudden like vibrating
Right.
differently.
So maybe don't think of it as the 30 million.
Did that change?
Oh, yeah.
What?
Changed everything. It changed everything for me because I feel like it got me in the ring of luxury, and I was never coming out of there. And what I do really well is make a big deal out of everything.
You have to.
You have to. So, like, for example, I'm going to LA. I'm going to make a big deal that Holly Carroll is coming to LA. Like social, like post about it. Like,
I'm
make
the
it.
same way.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I won't shy away from that because it's my fucking life. I'm living once and I'm doing something that is incredible to me. And it deserves an applause. And if no one's going to applaud, I'll applaud for myself. And that's where you actually build respect for yourself.
Right.
When you can be happy and be proud of the things that you're doing, and then everyone will see that. And it's not for everyone, it's for me. But you don't need the other people to applaud first before you applaud for yourself. Right?
Give yourself the validation.
Yeah.
Because your worth isn't attached to your validation.
No. The question that I had in there was, is there something specific that you learned being around someone that owns a $30 million property that you had a small conversation with, but that went far beyond words? Is there anything that you noticed or?
Not really, to be honest with you. Like, people are people. And I think we put them on a pedestal and they're not. They're just like us with the same kind of problems. Like, he probably went through struggles too, or has some vices that he works on. Everybody is just a human being. Take that away.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Okay, I wanted to ask you the cost of becoming a luxury real estate agent, not in terms of like what you actually, but the cost, like spending money on something that is an investment, but you had to be like, oh, I have to do this, right? Because a lot of people stop the investing that will actually make them tenfold or grow their business. What did that financial investment piece look like? So one, you said a coach.
Yeah, that was my biggest investment, is myself. The more you invest in yourself, the more you're going to bring forth to you, right? Invest in your presence too. Like, invest in your social media, and not just financially, but time. Invest in yourself. Really.
I was going to say, what you have a great social media brand, and I'm very proud of saying like, hey, social media has given me so many opportunities, and I know it has for you too. And I actually remember watching you exponentially grow from like, I think when we first met, it was 30, and within like a few months, you were like 50, 60, 70. I was like, whoa, that explosive growth, what kind of opportunity did that bring you? And why do you continue to invest in social media, and why do you take it so seriously?
Ooh, it is, it's brought so much opportunity in terms of podcasts, in terms of influencer events, in terms of a voice, in terms of the book. Like, I self-published and self-promoted this entire book because of my Instagram. It is.
Guys, you don't even need any marketing or PR firms or televisions, anything, when you've got a good social media presence. Right. And you continue to build that presence.
Right. And I like it. I mean, there is some times where I become more of a consumer than a creator, and that's okay. Because I'm human, but I do have to become aware of that. And it's about intention, not attention.
You have to remember that. Okay, I want to shift over to your book. I have so many questions, but I want you to lead. Tell me about your book.
So my book is not just about real estate, even though it is a guide to women in real estate and my struggles and my vulnerability and my victory. It's for any women in any type of business. I wrote the first chapter 3 years ago at a women's writing retreat. And I talked about it ever since. I said, I'm writing this book, Closing Deals and Heels. And that's great, that's great. And usually I go away in the winter because Muskoka can be very cold and isolating. And I thought, I'm going to sit and I'm going to write the rest of it. And I did it. And I wrote it to, share what I've gone through. And I wrote it sort of to heal everything I've gone through. And I think a lot of people bought it because they're like, I'm going to support you, Holly, because I love you. And they're like, wow, like this actually helped. And that's the best part of the book, is that it's actually impacting the world.
I've heard this from a few authors that writing a book is a reflection journey, and it's actually a healing journey first before it can heal others. Did you feel that?
I felt that so much. So much. And it's funny because once I deep dive, so there's a chapter about femininity. I almost didn't put that in there.
Why?
I don't know. It didn't feel like something I wanted to talk about, but whatever came out. And I was like, I'm writing this in the book. And there was times where I was like, maybe I shouldn't say all this. Like, maybe I shouldn't be this honest. And I kind of had a deadline to finish the book because I had a book tour started and I didn't have a book written yet. So I was like, well, this is coming out. Whatever's coming out is coming out. Let's proofread and go. And then I'm like, wait a second, what's in the book?
Okay, so what is something that you got really honest about that you didn't think you would get honest about?
Right. So I actually had some struggles with masculine and feminine wounds from my childhood. And I used to think femininity was a weakness. And people always say, what do you mean? You're so feminine. And I know I look that way, but there was definitely some softness I needed to, bring to the surface. And it was a hard pill to swallow because my ex actually told me that I have lost a touch with my feminine side during this whole writing process. And it brought me to my knees. And I was like, really? But instead of, resisting that, I thought, where can I learn here? And then I just started writing. And I think that a lot of women feel the same way.
Are you tapped into your feminine energy now?
I sure am.
What does that feminine energy look like?
It looks like trust. It looks like surrender. It looks like intuition, alignment. It looks like receiving. It looks like pure love.
I see it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I didn't feel this feminine before the book. I felt very sexy and powerful, but I didn't feel soft. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can relate because I think sexy and powerful is a masculine energy.
It kind of is.
Yeah, and soft and gentle and girly is a feminine energy. And and I like that. And I don't think I've maybe through this conversation, I realized that I don't know if I've been able to tap into it as much as I would like to.
Okay.
There's some times where I'm reading a book and I'm in my PJs and I'm sitting with my daughter. It feels very feminine. It feels really comforting, very safe.
Nurturing.
It feels very safe. It feels like I'd like to be here. But then the next morning I wake up and I'm like,
okay, well, I have a suggestion for you.
sure.
So I typically would like to be in balance all day. But if you can't because the world, and that's okay, I would spend your mornings and your evenings in full feminine and then switch into masculine during the days. Because masculine is that action, that discipline, that
It gets me to where I am.
100%. And we need both, trust me. But if you can root in your feminine in the morning, you'll be able to carry it with you when the masculine comes. Let's go.
That's great advice.
I also think that people think masculine energy is more powerful than feminine, and it's not, but it sounds like it is. So if you could just be like, okay, they're both the same, so maybe I can figure that out. And you just kind of think about it. But now that you're aware of it, I bet you any money. Yeah.
I think it's also like nice to be with a woman that is masculine inherently, like that's her nature, but she is tapping into her feminine. So I see that in you, and that kind of sparked the conversation. I'm like, oh, okay, so maybe I can also be that soft. It's really nice. When you wrote the book and as you were writing it, what were you really hoping that women would get out of the book? Like if they read it, what was like the why, and that you hope that whether you're here or not, that this message continues to carry forward?
The main reason why I wrote it is because I wish I had somebody, I wish I had it to read. Little Holly had that, or even Holly when she started her real estate career. So I just want women to know, or anybody that picks up the book, that you're not alone, And everything that you're going through is part of the journey. So you're going to hear some things that you can relate to. You're going to hear some exercises that you can use to become more feminine, to become more masculine, to really believe in yourself. So I wrote it for everybody to come to the mountaintop with me.
Yeah.
You know?
I love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Do you find that you also go back and read some chapters here and there and be like, oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I knew we were going to talk about the book, and it was so beautiful this morning in Muskoka. And I was reading this other book, and I thought, why don't I look at my book? And I pulled it open to the femininity chapter, which is funny.
wow.
And I thought, I wrote this.
Yeah. Surreal.
Because you go into this zone. You just almost black out and you just go into this zone. And months later, you're like, well, I'm not in that zone anymore, right? So you forget that whatever came out, came out.
I see you do a lot of work with women. You're at retreats, you speak, you've been able to so beautifully blend in your career with also impact and purpose. Tell me a little bit about that work. I mean, you could have just, been a luxury real estate agent selling real estate, but you tend to show a little bit more beyond just the luxury real estate because it keeps you relatable. That piece I really like about you, and I love following you for that too, because I see you as someone that's really out there making a change and making an impact.
Thank you for that. I feel like that's always been inside me to share. And I've met a lot of really wonderful women doing the same thing, and it's fully aligned. I'm attracted and attracting that space. And I just love helping others. It feels good.
Yeah.
And women are just, I get it. I get women.
Yeah, I know. It's true. It's like the best feeling being able to help another woman. Your real estate career and the book launch and the book tour and everything that's so magically aligning for you. Is there an answer to where Holly is next? Do you live in that? Like, what's next?
Yeah. So Holly Carroll will be a household name. And the reason why I want that is because of the impact. I'd like to travel the world and speak. I already have another book, but I am trying not to write it. It's called Finding the Beauty Within.
Wow.
I find that also when I speak things out loud and I have a microphone and I have another powerful woman listening, that the chances of it coming true are a lot better.
You're manifesting. You're speaking out loud.
Right.
That's incredible. So there's still a lot of otherwise in your life that are developing as well. You're in your 40s, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. And I say this to say, because have you ever felt this type of powerful, feminine, confident energy in your life before? And I want to speak to the women that are possibly in their late 30s, mid 30s, heading to their 40th chapter and feeling like, and you've had these conversations, I've had these conversations. Is this it? And when you ask yourself that, and the answer is, I feel stuck, most people stay there for a very long time, especially in this age bracket, because things are too comfortable and it's too hard to change and it's too hard to make the other move. And going back to your mantra you mentioned in the beginning, you're one decision away.
Right.
How would you address that to a woman that's struggling?
I feel like if you're already thinking that you're stuck or that you're uncomfortable, that's the nudge. If you don't feel that way, then you're probably numb to it all. So that's kind of the first self-awareness, that it's like, okay, why is this coming up? This is coming up so you can face it. And I would say life begins at your 40s, but
yeah, I would.
The rest is just research.
Second that, girl, because I haven't felt this way in a long time.
Right. I do feel like there's a lot more tools for you to get out and get unstuck, and please use those. I still feel stuck sometimes. You know, we're all human. We all have egos, but I don't sit in it and I don't let it drive the car. I put on something inspiring. I put on your podcast. I put on something that will get me out of my own head and out of my own way. And then I just move towards it.
I like that. What you said, I'm human. I get stuck too. I do too. It's part of life. What is something that you're still working through?
I probably still have some shame, if you will, or some regret. And I definitely have some remnants of the past Holly, because the other Holly's like right there, but I don't feel like she's infused in my body yet fully. Like the multimillionaire Holly Carroll household name, the, world tour
love it
speaker.
all.
She's there, but like the other one's still here.
I get it.
So I'm still working on that. And it's just an identity shift, really. Yeah, I definitely I probably hold on to people that I shouldn't hold on to or old beliefs. So I'm snipping those quicker.
Yeah.
We all do.
It's a work in progress. And that's what makes us real.
Right.
Because you can't just be perfect all the time. You have to give and take. I want to talk about the wealth piece before we end, if that's okay. Making your own money, being independent. I think you recently bought a property in Muskoka. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Talk to me about that piece, like the financial independence, being able to make your own money. Why is that important to you? And how have you been able to, grow your wealth? And what are your wealth and financial goals? Because I think you brought up, being a multimillionaire often. And I love the sound of that. I wish more women said that to themselves. Right. Yeah. Tell me.
I think that, plans change, but the goal doesn't. So the last few years, I'm going to be honest, in real estate weren't the best financial years. And I don't think they were for a lot of people. But I won't stop saying I'm a multimillionaire, because my circumstances aren't going to change my frequency. And I think that what ends up happening is people are like, it's not working, so I'm going to change the plan, or I'm going to change careers, or I'm going to change whatever, or I'm going to change myself, or I'm going to go back. So in terms of the wealth piece, like it's really about belief and it's about self-worth. And it's about, again, investing in yourself, spending that money and so you can get it and knowing with certainty that you're going to get it back. Not spending it and almost counting down the pennies. I'm sure someone would say, don't do that. Like count where your money goes and budget. But at the same time, like
expand.
Just know that it's going to come back and know that, whatever you put out in the world, if it goes to your business and goes to yourself and goes to good intention, it's going to come back.
Yeah. I mean, they say, right? Money is energy. It's all energy first before it actually transpires into something physical. Right. What are some financial goals that you've set for yourself?
Well, the multimillionaire for sure.
Other than this beautiful, great goal, is there a desire for, I don't know, a cottage somewhere, staying in Europe? Like, are there certain goals that you've set benchmark for your business and yourself financially?
Absolutely. I'd like to own some more properties worldwide. A couple more in Muskoka that I rent out. I would like just the freedom to travel whenever I want to travel. Like you said, it's freedom before we jumped on, right?
Yeah.
But I'd also like to do a lot more like impact. So, this sounds cheesy, but I would like to help out more and I would like to be more charitable. And it's funny because I actually took this course called Millionaire.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it's nice that we're having this conversation because it actually says, what would you do if you were a multimillionaire? Do that now. In smaller scales.
Actually, not a lot of people can answer that question. I'm going to reflect on this because it's not there, so we don't think about it. But if you were to act on it and it was there, you'd operate very differently.
Yeah. It's just like that 300 to 30. Like, why is that different?
Yeah, it's not. It's funny, like, to be completely honest, I think it was a week ago, I had a very low energy day and I was operating, I had just lost a deal, financially a little bit stressed out. Like we talked about real estate and our portfolio and whatnot. And I was just giving off very low vibration, money energy.
Yep.
It felt so, and I sat down, I don't know what it was. It just came to me and I was like, I'm going to operate as if I have $1 million in my bank account. What difference would that make? Because I went back to when we did our flip, when we did that, and we had all this money in the bank account, and I woke up the next day and nothing changed in a sense that I didn't feel like it felt the same.
Right.
As in, I'm deserving and it's great. Okay, now let's go back to work. Right. So why is that energy different? I had to actively, consciously pull myself out of that energy. And I had to do something different and let me change this into what I want to actually be and become.
Right. And they say why when you're going on a trip, you wake up at 4 a.m. and you're not tired because you're going on a trip. Mm-hmm. But if I woke up at 4 a.m. and I had to go to work or something that I'm not passionate about, it's a completely different mindset. So it's the same time, but you're a different mindset. So if you can get into a different mindset, also abundance is a mindset.
Yes. I wish we could talk more about that. It's true. It really is.
Episode number 2.
Yes, it's coming. Okay, before we end, I want to ask you, what are some non-negotiables for you when it comes to routines, habits? Because, you know, there's so many different women that are doing their own thing. Some have routines, some don't have the capacity for a routine, young kids and whatnot. Where you're at now that you found yourself to be able to have abundance and attract the things that you want. And clearly we're here and there's so much coming. I know that you guys will all see. Make sure you follow Holly. But what are those habits and routines that are non-negotiable? Is it a morning practice that you 100% do? Is it an evening? Is it both?
Non-negotiable is I pray every day, whatever that means to whoever's listening. But like I talk to spirit every day and thank them and ask for guidance. That is just non-negotiable. Sometimes it doesn't happen in the morning. Sometimes it's on the way to work or whatever. And I visualize every day. Sometimes it's just like, okay, see myself. But every single day I visualize.
And are you visualizing, just so the listeners can,
Right.
if you're not doing that, maybe some tips to how to visualize? People talk about that, but what is it? Are you supposed to imagine yourself doing the things that you want? Are you supposed to imagine what you're manifesting materialistically? Like, what does that?
Right. So I have 3 different end scenes.
Okay.
This is also in the book too. I have 3 different end scenes, but they're mainly a feeling. But I have one of me and, you know, my partner or my soulmate, right? We're dancing on the beach. And sometimes I just like to go to that one to be on that frequency of love. And then my other one is that highest self. And she just happens to be on a stage.
That's
you
it.
know?
I picture that too.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So, or at a bookstore, you know, signing books. So it's the end result. And the reason why I do that is because what happens when we just talked about that? You felt so good, didn't you? You're like, I picture that, I can feel that. So that feeling then goes with you throughout the day. But most people wake up every day and they replay what they did yesterday. Because your brain is just a memory, right? It's a memory that replays all the stories that you've done. So we actually have to reprogram that. And the best way to reprogram that is to visualize something different. And then you'll walk out and you'll...
When you think of being rich and wealthy, and you think about that life that you want, and you're working so hard to get, when everything is done at the end of the day and it's, you know, 20 years from now and you can look back and someone comes up to you and says, hey, Holly, you know, what does a wealthy life mean to you? And you're able to reflect back. What does that look like for you?
A wealthy life for me is when your outside matches your inside. So like you feel in alignment, you feel at peace, you feel like you can make an impact anywhere you go without the financial restrictions. I don't know.
Yeah, that's beautiful. When the outside matches the inside, when the inside matches the outside, you're one. That's Holly Carroll, guys. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.